unto him, why callest thou me good?
So Christ didn't really even answer him. Why is that? Because the people were coming to Christ like they were going to try to catch him in something. Not knowing that this is the God that actually issued the laws to Moses. You're going to trick him in his own word? I mean, what kind of sense does that really make? So he asked, he'd even twisted it on him in the beginning. Why are you calling me good? He says, there's none good but the Father. Read on.
There is none good but one.
Read.
That is God.
Read on.
But if thou wilt enter into life.
If you want that everlasting life, read.
Keep the commandment.
Do what?
Keep the commandment.
Read it again.
Keep the commandment.
Read it one more time.
Keep the commandment.
See, I want that to resonate inside of your mind right here, because out of Jesus Christ's own mouth, he says, if you want to enter into that everlasting life that you were asking about, you're supposed to keep the commandments of God. So how is it in 2009 you can say that the law is done away with? Read on.
He saith unto him, which? Jesus said, thou shalt do no murder.
So now the young man comes to Christ and says, well, which law is it? Which commandment is it I'm supposed to keep? And Christ starts going into him concerning some of the 10 commandments. Read on.
Thou shalt do no murder.
Thou shalt do no murder. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Read on.
Thou shalt not steal.
Read.
Thou shalt not bear false witness. Honor thy father and thy mother.
Read on.
And thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
So there he went all the way back to Leviticus, the 19th chapter. So Jesus Christ was actually telling him certain laws that he was already aware of. Just so that you got that understanding. Let's move on. Let's go to the book of Mark. St. Mark, chapter 12. We're going to read verses 34 through 40. I'm going to move through these kind of fast, because I want to make sure that you get all of the scriptures down that you can get, so that you can go back and compare and make sure that those brothers from the Israelite church ain't just pulling my chain, just telling me anything. All right, Mark chapter 12. We're going to read verses 28 first. 28 through 34.
Mark 12 and 28. And one of the scribes came, and having heard them reasoning together, and perceiving that he had answered them well, asked him, which is the first commandment of all?
Which is the what?
The first commandment of all.
Which is the first commandment? Ain't asking like, what's the premier commandment? What is the commandment that we should keep above all other commandments? Read on.
And Jesus answered him.
Go ahead.
The first of all the commandments is.
The first of all the commandments is, read.
Hear, O Israel.
Hear who?
O Israel.
O Baptist.
O Israel.
Methodist.
O Israel.
Episcopalian.
O Israel.
Catholic.
O Israel.
Buddhist.
O Israel.
Taoist.
O Israel.
We could do that all day with all the different ideas and philosophies that are going on out there. But the fact of the matter is, the bottom line out of Jesus Christ's own mouth, hear, O Israel. Read on.
The Lord our God is one Lord.
Read on.
And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment.
This is the first and premier commandment. So this is the commandment coming out of Jesus Christ's mouth. Read.
And the second is like, namely this.
Read.
Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
Go ahead.
There is none other commandment greater than these.
So he said, and the second is like, meaning and similar in weight or importance. It is similar. And the second is like, namely this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There is none other commandment greater than these. Let's elaborate on this particular portion. Let's get Matthew, the 22nd chapter, because I kind of want you to see what was going on, because between the Gospels, there's a certain harmony that goes back and forth. You'll read something that somebody said in one Gospel, and you read the same incident in another Gospel, and it gives a little bit more clarity to it. So this is what we want to reach out and make sure that we give that understanding to you. Matthew 22 and verses 34 through 40.
Matthews 22 and 34. But when the Pharisees had heard that he had put the Sadducees to silence.
Where he had done what?
Put the Sadducees to silence.
See, when we read it in Mark, he says that the guy perceived that he had answered them well. How well did he answer them? As we read here, he put them to silence. He had to shut them up. He says, as he saw that he had put the Sadducees to silence. Go ahead.
They were gathered together.
Read on.
Then one of them, which was a lawyer.
Which was a what?
A lawyer.
This guy is supposed to be skillful inside of the law. Read on.
Asked him a question.
Come on.
Tempting him.
Doing what?
Tempting him.
Testing Christ. Testing God. Testing the man to whom issued the law that you call yourself being so on point in. Read on.
And saying, Master.
What?
Master.
Read on.
Which is the great commandment in the law?
Read on.
Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind.
Doesn't it sound very similar to what we read earlier? See, we got certain details in certain places in Mark because it actually opened up saying, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one Lord," and then he told you should love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, thy mind, thy soul, thy strength. In this particular one, we didn't hear the "Hear, O Israel" one, but he went into detail. Immediately, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. Verse 38.
This is the first and great commandment.
This is the first and great commandment. Read.
And the second is like
And
unto
the second
it.
is what?
Is like unto it.
And the second is similar in weight or importance unto it, meaning compared to it. Read.
Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
Read.
On these two commandments.
On these two commandments, go ahead.
Hang all the law.
Hang what?
All the law.
Hang all the law. Go ahead.
And the prophets.
And the prophets. Everything that was written in the law and everything was written on the prophets hang on these two laws. Now we know that written in the Bible there were over 600 laws. What is Christ telling you? That if you were really locked into Christ and understood what Christ was saying right here, he was telling you that if you love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, thy soul, thy mind, thy strength, and love thy neighbor as thyself, you would be keeping all of those laws. What did he tell the young man that came and asked him first what was going on about getting eternal life? He says, look, don't do any murder. Thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. And he also mentioned again in Leviticus 19 that thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. All of this is going on. Christ is showing you beyond a shadow of a doubt that the law is still in effect. You have to be dealing with the law so that you know exactly what's going on. How did he say that these two things were actually covering all the law? Because Christ says, if you love me, you would keep my commandments. That's the crystal clear one. Let's get that for him right quick. That's not in the lineup right here, but it fits. You know how the Lord do. In John, if I'm not mistaken, the 14th chapter. Let's see if we have that. I think it's 14 and 15. St. John, verses 14 and 15. So this is why Jesus Christ says, on these two things right here, hang all the law. Why? Because the first initial one says that you will love the Lord thy God with all thy soul, all thy might, all thy mind, all thy body, all thy strength, just everything, every fiber of your being, you're supposed to love the Lord with. And if you love the Lord, read John 14 and 15.
John 14 and 15. If ye love me.
What did Jesus Christ say?
If ye love me.
So how many of you out there in watching the show right now can say honestly inside yourself that you love Jesus Christ, or you really want to love, or you striving to love Jesus Christ? If ye love me, said Jesus Christ, read.
Keep my commandments.
Keep my commandments. So he was letting you know. On these two, I can just sum everything up in two scriptures, but still you have to do everything that the law actually tells you to do. You still have to do that. So he was letting you know that. If you love me, keep my commandments. So, if it's about keeping the commandments, where does the grace come in? What's the grace part about? Because that's the part that causes so many problems. Let's go and get that so that you can get the real understanding of what's going on. We're going to go into the book of Romans. The book of Romans, letters that were done by the Apostle Paul. And Apostle Paul always had a real beautiful way that he did things. He would ask you a question in his letters, and before you even had a chance to think on it, he was already giving you the answer to the question. He didn't want you to go into your own mind, but he wanted you to be in the same spirit and the same mind as he was, because Paul himself was taught directly by Jesus Christ. So he wanted you to be in that same mind. So he didn't even give you a chance to formulate something in your mind.